I'm James David Manning, pastor of the ATLAH World Missionary Church for the past 40 years. I'm the Lord's servant, and I want you to know that I love all of God's people, and I love the community called Harlem, but God has changed the name of this community to ATLAH. That's what God said, the land where the people shall walk barefoot because the land is holy ground. I'm about to say some things and point out some facts and truth about ATLAH Sharpton. And I want to say at the outset, if any of the things I'm saying are not true, ATLAH Sharpton can take me to court and sue me for libel, which he's not going to do, because I'm only going to give you the truth and the facts as the whole world needs to know them. So listen to what I have to say, and then you make an evaluation. I want to explain to you why ATLAH Sharpton has not protested the gentrification, the taking over, the transferring of this immense wealth to white people, they're Japheth people, and why he's agreed to let it happen. Back in 1995, there was a Jewish business owner who opened a store on 125th Street called Freddie's Fashion Mart. And there were several people, black campaign persons, and another fellow that owned a record store there that was also renting space from the United Church there on 125th Street. ATLAH Sharpton, coming out of some very dark times in his experience, led a protest against this Jewish store owner 2 weeks earlier, and then stood out there day after day handing out leaflets telling people how awful and calling this Jewish store owner an interloper, a Jewish interloper. Well, one of the persons that was involved in the march and the protest with ATLAH Sharpton against this Jewish store owner on 125th Street, when ATLAH Sharpton was protesting against gentrification, one of these protesters came back a day later with a gun, went into Freddie's Fashion Mart, held everybody hostage, dropped the Molotov cocktail in the clothing store. The place went up in flames just like that. 7 young people, mainly Hispanics, 23, 19 years old, lost their lives. You know, a number of people lost their lives in the fire up in the Bronx last week, and 13 people lost their lives in a fire in Philadelphia. 8 people lost their lives. One of ATLAH Sharpton's protest participants went in there, locked those people in the basement, and they suffocated. They were roasted. Their bodies were burned to a crisp. ATLAH Sharpton. Later, ATLAH Sharpton gets together with the owner of the store and some lawyers and others and cuts a deal that he will not protest any gentrification in New York if, now listen to this very carefully, because we're going to have to go through the documents from the various newspapers to indicate that ATLAH Sharpton sat down and cut a deal with the Jewish people and developers, and he did it at the Cotton Club. They gave him $800,000. Now listen to me very carefully. If you want to know why ATLAH Sharpton has never led another march against a $1 trillion enterprise and what is the land grabbing and predatory land grabbing from black people and the increase in homeless shelters in Harlem, why ATLAH Sharpton has not said a mumbling word. After ATLAH Sharpton, and one can debate this either way you want, but most people know that ATLAH Sharpton his protesting led to the death of those 7 Latino workers, store workers, and also the death of the gunman who set off that Molotov. Everybody knows, you can't prove it because the fellow who did it is dead. If he had not died, perhaps he would testify that Al sent him there to do that. But you can't prove it. But everybody knows it. Everybody knows that the deaths of Freddie's fire on December 8th, that happened at Freddie's Fashion Mart, on December 8th, 1995, was instigated by ATLAH Sharpton. Now, you can't prove it, and so you can charge me as saying I don't have evidence of that. But let me say this. ATLAH Sharpton has never acknowledged, he has never repented for these deaths. ATLAH Sharpton, These Latino workers in Freddie's Fashion Mart didn't have a chance. And if Al Sharpton had never marched, that follower of Al Sharpton would have never gone in to burn that place down. And yet today, Joe Biden calls him up. The District Attorney Alvin Bragg goes to his chicken shack, and nobody wants to hold Al Sharpton accountable for the deaths of these young people. And I'm here. Miss India, put it up on the screen. I'm here. And nobody even talks about it. And Al Sharpton runs around the world, always got some sort of a march and protest when somebody white kills somebody black. But why you're not going to be able to prove it because the person who, and Al ain't going to confess it, but the person who did the murder and the burning of the store, he's dead. So that takes Al off the hook. But why is it that the district attorney of the county of Manhattan is hobnobbing with Al Sharpton? Why is it that Joe Biden is using the National Action Network to hold a Martin Luther King Jr. speech? Why is it that Barack Hussein Obama comes to Harlem to kiss Al Sharpton's ring? Why is it a man who's involved in that? But that ain't all that Al has done. That's not all. So he took the $800,000. Is that right? And he went on to schedule several meetings with Jewish bankers and developers that he would never lead a protest against the gentrification of the poor people in Harlem who are now living in shelters or sleeping on the streets. He cut a deal. Now here's what my theory is. I've been studying Al and watching him for quite some time. Here's what I believe. Here's what I believe Al did. When the Jewish developers saw the power of death at the protest of Al Sharpton, and they had already started moving into the Harlem community in that gentrification process, they hadn't gotten nowhere near where they are now. They gave Al Sharpton $800,000 there at the Cotton Club, but then reached a later agreement that he would continually enjoy and inure from the profits of Harlem as each development went up. Al got a piece of the action. Now they're trying to build a 17-story building on 145th Street in his honor. But I want to tell you, I've lived in Harlem, and I've watched Al Sharpton, and I've watched these developers. Listen, there's a pastor named Kevin Griffin, or Bishop Griffin, who was the pastor of the Child's Memorial Church on Amsterdam Avenue. Sold the church building, as did a lot of pastors did, but this pastor got caught. This pastor cut a deal with the developers, and he was paid $900,000, nearly $1 million to close the deal. Now, I've confessed, they've offered me money for our buildings and our property as well. Yeah, they have. I confess it, they have. But if you know this pastor pocketed $900,000, and other pastors have pocketed money, they just haven't got caught. Listen to me. Now listen to me. Listen to me. I want you to hear me. Jesus wants you to listen to this. That Al Sharpton, every project that has gone up, every high-rise, every building, the Marriott Hotel, all the other residential buildings, Al Sharpton has been given a kickback for every developed property here in Harlem. You know, Al Sharpton, why he has all of this power now, and the reason why he's on MSNBC is because the Jewish bankers, developers have given him, here's a man that the whole world knows is an unrepentant drug dealer, selling drugs, snitched on the mafioso. Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me. Al Sharpton snitched on the Italian Mafia boys from Staten Island who were dealing drugs here in Harlem. And Al's Jewish money and Al's protection, Al's influence is so powerful that the Mafia wouldn't touch him. The Jews who run the money systems in New York told the mafioso boys out there in Staten Island, after Al snitched on them, if you touch him, we're going to cut off your access to cash. We're going to cut off your access to money laundering. We're going to cut off your access to banking. Let this little rat go, and we'll call it even. But that ain't all. Then Al demands that the Jewish owners of the MSNBC network give him a spot on their newscast program. Now, I took him down. He was on there 5 days a week. I took him down going back about 5 years ago. But he's back now on Saturday and Sunday. Listen to me. Listen to me. Al Sharpton is a billionaire. Al Sharpton gets a cut from every development. When the Jews saw that Al could create death, that he could bring people to march against them and their development after Freddie's fire, they said, let's just cut a deal with him, buy him out. And Al gets a kickback. Right now, he gets a kickback. And not just that, but then the Jewish people, then because Al helped them land grab Harlem. Listen, what Al Sharpton has done in helping the Jewish developers land grab Harlem will make what the Pilgrims did in buying Manhattan with $24 and some bees look like a birthday party. What Al has done. But not just Al. David Dinkins, who's now dead, the late David Dinkins, did the same thing with Columbia University. Now, David Dinkins didn't have the kind of, we'll burn down your store. We'll burn down your employee. We'll have people afraid to come to work for you. David Dinkins didn't have that kind of power. But he cohorted with Columbia University and was able to talk all the mom and pop stores on West 125th Street and Broadway to sell their property to Columbia University. Now Columbia University owns all that property. They just paid $84 million for the old Fairway supermarket plant right there on the Hudson River and 125th Street. Now, that was David Dinkins. So when this was going on about 15 years ago, David Dinkins was prostituting himself for Columbia University to get the people to sell their property. We had a meeting, Community Board 10 or Community Board 9, I forget which one it was now. David Dinkins, I was in that meeting. I spoke at that meeting. Lee Bollinger was in that meeting. David Dinkins got up and was trying to convince the people and the community board that this was a good idea to sell their property and let Columbia University build all that area there south of Manhattanville houses, right on the coast of the Hudson River, at the end of 125th Street. David Dinkins got up and said, I'm your first black mayor. They said, boo, the hell with you. You a seller. They booed him for a half an hour and that they wouldn't let him talk. They wouldn't let David Dinkins, because they saw that David Dinkins was doing then what Al Sharpton is doing now, pocketing money to Bob Harlem. And they got a cut. I got up in that meeting. I spoke in that meeting. They didn't boo me. They let me speak. But my friends here, you have to understand something, and I'm going to let you go. Al Sharpton has become so powerful with the Jewish money, and I don't say that because I hate Jews. I'm a Zionist. What do you mean by that? I believe that God gave the land of Israel to the Jews in the Bible to Abraham, took it away from my brother Canaan and said it was the land flowing with milk and honey, and that's where I stand. I stand with the Jews. I stand with them. I preached in Jewish synagogues. I run with Jewish people. I'm not a Jew hater. I'm just telling you, Jews got money. They got influence. Listen, all these people running around here the other day marching and protesting and marching and trying to get Voting Rights Act and all of that, carrying on. Listen, all that ain't nothing. You ain't got no money, you ain't getting nothing. And everybody knows it. But the thing I want to leave you with is that Al Sharpton is getting paid. Al Sharpton is a billionaire. Al Sharpton gets a cut every time you see a development or a crane going up and a building being built. Every time you see a new development be happening, Al Sharpton's getting a cut. And not only that, because there's no leadership, they're tearing down churches. And first, these Jewish interlopers, that's what Al called them, if you don't mind. At first, all they were interested in just apartment buildings or brownstone. Now they've gone for the churches. They've gone for the historical sites, like the Lenox Lounge. They'll be going for the Apollo if it wasn't a landmark. They have these Jewish developers are sparing no mercy whatsoever. While homelessness has increased in Harlem like you would not believe. We've never seen homelessness the way it is now. And not just men being, it used to be in the 90s, just men homeless. Now you got women and children homeless because these developers are coming up here, taking all the property, pushing the indigenous people into shelters. It's what they're doing. And Al Sharpton is getting a cut. Now they've gotten bodacious. They want to now build a twin tower on 145th Street, naming it the Civil Rights Building in his honor. I mean, come on. I think this is going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Listen, friends, there needs to be an investigation into, listen, Al Sharpton's on MSNBC, a program called Politics Nation, where he hosts a 1-hour broadcast on Saturday and Sunday at 5 o'clock. It's a scream. It's a joke. MSNBC ought to be ashamed of themselves. They ought to be run out of town. Al Sharpton on there, he can't read. He can't read a teleprompter. He sounds like a quacking duck when he talks. He looks like an idiot sitting there. He looks like he's dried up like a prune, look like something that's come over and swept all over. And MSNBC ought to be ashamed of themselves. First of all, activists should not be also news reporter. You're going to be either one or the other. But that Jewish money talks. It talks. And for Al Sharpton to give away the mom and pop stores, give away the mom and pop houses in Harlem, has landed that boy a job on MSNBC. Now, I took him down a few years ago. I took him down, and because he was doing 5 o'clock, 5 days a week, I stopped that. I took that down. But Al Sharpton, people, how does MSNBC get off knowing that the New York Post labeled Al Sharpton as a rat? They call him Reverend Rat. They also post, and it's public news, that Al Sharpton coordinated with the FBI as central or confidential informant number 7 and ratted out the Mafia, and the Jews came to his defense. What is this? When are you people going to wake up? When are you people going to wake up and see Al has sold Harlem and everything that is going on, and he gets a cut? He don't even live in Harlem. It's too dangerous for him. And I can't live around black folk. It's too dangerous. But this has got to stop. You know, this Al Sharpton sale of Harlem, there needs to be an investigation. We know that community boards, you know, sometimes they take a little kickback. They take some money under the table. Construction people take money under the table. Bankers take bribes to build buildings. They don't know whether the person can fill the buildings or pay for them or not. We all know that goes on. We all know that goes on every day. But here, I got one other thing for you. You know, Barack Hussein Obama, him too. Him too. He and Al Sharpton tighter than 2 peas in a pod. When they were asking where should they build Obama's library, his presidential library, to keep his papers and whatever it was he did the 8 years that he was president. They went to a place in Chicago that was in the hood called Jackson Park. And the people that of note of Jackson Park said, no, we don't want you building this library here because it's going to bring gentrification. This high-rise, this library is going to close down most of the mom and pop stores. You're going to want to put in chic, if you will, upscale restaurants. And the black people protested. The black people protested Obama building in Jackson Park in Chicago. But he and Al Sharpton, this is what they've done. Now Obama is living in an $8 million mansion up in Martha's Vineyard, for crying out loud. And Al Sharpton don't live in Harlem. There needs to be an investigation, my friend. There needs to be an investigation. These things I'm saying to you now, that Al has made all this money. Al, I have to give it to him. He's very smart. He is cunning. He's slick, just like his hair. By the way, Al, you know, Malcolm X would have a lot of problem looking at you with that concholine in your hair, putting them straightening combs in your hair every 2 or 3 days. Malcolm would have trouble with you with that concholine sitting up there in the beauty parlor like you some little old fat woman. But no, there needs to be an investigation. There needs to be an investigation of Al Sharpton's profits that he has made. Does he have offshore bank accounts? Now, he's smart. I can tell you that. Anybody who can manipulate Jews the way Al Sharpton. Listen, the boy's on, he's on MSNBC in the news program, and he can't even read. He can't read his name in front of written on a damn bond. Al can't read, stumbles all over the place. And yet they let him. Nobody complains. The advertisers don't complain. People who've gone to journalist school and know what journalism is, sat there and watched Al Sharpton. What is he? What is it? What? It's that Jewish money. It's that Jewish money. And it ain't just the money that Al is getting, but all the money that they are making from developing, stealing and robbing and maiming and land grabbing as they go up here in Harlem. And I got to tell you, they are building everywhere you look. There's a new building going up. And every time one goes up, Al gets a piece of the action. My friend, there need to be an investigation. You know, you people voted for Obama. Raise your hand if you voted for him, but yet you're living in a shelter. Raise your hand if you voted for him, but you're unemployed right now. Raise your hand if you voted for him and your wife done run off with another lesbian woman. Vote. Listen, I put on a sign the other day that black woman, you better watch out for these lesbian women, these homosexual men rather, because they can do something to your man that you can't do. These men can do something to your man that you can't do. But raise your hand if your wife done run off with a lesbian. Raise your hand if your 65-year-old grandma is not talking about she's just found love for the first time with another woman. This is the first time she's ever been in love. Raise your hand, says Obama, raise your hand if your grandma is not talking about she's just found what true love is in the arms of another woman. Raise your hand if your daughter, or your son is now with another man and your daughter with another. Raise your hand, says Obama. The destruction, that's just the physical, spiritual destruction. The economic destruction that has taken place here in this community is unprecedented. There's never been anything like this ripoff. And Alice, I have to give it to him. Al is slick. Al is smart. That boy is smart. Let me tell you something. You can talk your way. Listen, they got rid of Chris Cuomo the other day off of CNN. And Don Lemon is hanging by a string because he allegedly, sexually molested some bartender out in Sag Harbor going back a couple of years. But Al Sharpton is an unrepentant drug dealer. Al Sharpton is a snitch. And yet, the president of the United States comes to kiss his ring. That's about that Jewish money, that Wall Street money. Lord, have mercy. But it shouldn't be that way. That money should belong to you. These buildings should belong to you. These homes should belong to you and your family. You can have Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas dinner and enough room for everybody. big dining rooms and backyards to play. But Al is gutless. Al is ruthless in my estimation. And I have to tell you this, my friends, y'all have let these liberal media, LGBTQ, and the pinch-nosed Negro is the other thing. These pinch-nosed Negroes, these are people, Negroes, unlike that beautiful statement of Jasmine Arbery, who said about her brother Ahmed Arbery that he got dark skin and kinky hair and he got a big nose. Well, that's the black man. That's the Hamite. That's who he is. That's who he is. And it's beautiful. And she was right. But there are a bunch of Negroes running around who want to be white. So they pinch their big flat nose so when they talk, they sound like they're white. These pinch-nosed Negroes. Y'all have let these pinch-nosed Negroes, these sellout preachers that are getting millions of dollars for selling their churches, turning over their property. Y'all let these Sharptons of the world and the liberal media turn you against me. You let them tell you that I ain't for the black man. And you ain't got a bit more sense than to listen to it and go for it. Because I speak the truth, they call that hate. The truth I speak, and you know I speak the truth. You know I do. They call it hate. And you've let these people turn you against perhaps the last righteous man in New York City. And perhaps the last righteous man. Now listen to me very carefully. All of what I've said right now takes some cojones. You understand me? Now you listen to me. I want you to hear me. You listen to me. To stand up and to declare that these Italian boys got these contracts, these Genovese boys, these Genoa boys, they made a deal to let Al Sharpton go. They made a deal not to kill Al Sharpton if they can get the contracts. If they can get the contract to bring in their trucks, the contract to bring in their cement, the contract to bring in their cranes, the contract to bring in their workers, the contracts, the paddock contracts. They get that and say, we'll let Al go. So the Jews and the Italian boys made that deal. Now, you ain't going to hear that from nobody. Listen, the district attorney, if he knew it, and I believe he does, he ain't going to tell you because he feel his life would be on the line. But I'm a righteous man. I'm telling you how Al Sharpton wiggled out of not being whacked out by the Mafia because Jews told the Mafia, we'll give y'all the contracts, we'll do the banking. We'll take Harlem. We'll take Harlem in a fair swoop. Won't have any problem with Al Sharpton riling up the black people to march against us. And like Freddie's fire. Won't have anybody want to worry about Al Sharpton if you'll just let Al Sharpton go. And they reached that agreement, and then Al said, I want more. Al said, I want to be on television. I want to be on, and they put him on television. They gave him a news program. But Obama ain't innocent either. Obama's hands ain't clean. When y'all gonna wake up? Out there marching the other day talking about we gonna overcome. Out there marching talking about voting rights act. Let me tell you something. If you ain't got no money, listen, get the money and you don't need to vote. The people with money don't vote. They pay for their politicians. They buy them lock, stock, and barrel the way they bought off Biden and a whole lot of other people. People got money don't vote. People got money don't depend on no vote. They buy what they want. And until y'all get some money, out there marching and marching and marching and protesting and marching and going nowhere, complaining all the time. Yet Al Sharpton. Listen, for me to say this, I'm not trying to, pat myself on the back for having said it. But you need me. You walk by this church, you let these white people tell you to hate me. You let these people in the media to tell you to hate me. You let these LGBTQ people tell you to hate me. Why do you do that, brother? Why you do that? Why you listening to them? You ain't got nothing. They got everything. You ain't got nothing. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to tell you what Al Sharpton had done to you. The man's a billionaire. The Mafia is making money, building. Everywhere you look and see a crane, everywhere you look and see a new apartment, everywhere you look and see where they're bulldozed over a church, the Mafia is making money, and the banks are making money. Al Sharpton gets a cut. Yet you're going to let them tell you, you're going to say he represents the black man. I call him Al the Buzzard because every time somebody gets killed, he shows up just like buzzards do, circling around dead bodies. And I call his friend, that other guy, Ben Crump, the Undertaker. He shows up too. The Buzzard and the Undertaker, they both show up. You got to stop letting these people tell you to hate me. You got to stop it. Now, they got a bigger megaphone. They got the media. They got the churches. They got the preachers. They got the LGBTQ people. All of them ganged up against me to tell you, hate Manning. He ain't for the black man. Big dummy. And you listen to him. At any rate, I think that the inequality that just on basis of if none of this was true, and you've been around, you've seen enough movies, you've been around long enough, you see how business deals go down back, you see how lawyers, you see how they cut people's throat, you see how they steal people's property, you've seen that. That's all I'm telling you. What is so hate for the black man about that? You've seen them do it. You know they do it. You know they're sellouts. You know it. You know that black people sell each other out. You know it. You know it. Yet you let these people tell, don't go to that church. Don't go nowhere near him. Don't let your children go to that school. He ain't for the black man. I tell you, if this wasn't so pathetic, you know, you'd probably rather have 4-stage cancer than have the mind of you people who think Al Sharpton is for you. And I swear, I'm gonna let you go. This don't make no sense at MSNBC. I swear, if I were a New York journalist, New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, MSNBC, CBS, I would all go on strike until they get rid of Al Sharpton. He's got no business being in the journalistic class. He got no damn business being there. Got no business. Talking about he's a boy preacher. He's still a boy. And he ain't no preacher. But me, I'm James Everett Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. And don't you ever, 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 ever forget it. Let me just say this. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not a Democrat. Definitely ain't that. I'm not a Republican. Sure enough, stomped on ain't that. I'm not a liberal. Ain't gonna never be. And I'm not a conservative. I'm not that. I'm not a red boy or a blue boy. I'm the Lord's servant. Listen, I'm not here in support of Joe Biden and Camelback ain't Black Harris. The last thing on the planet Earth would be I'd be supporting them. I'm not. I don't have anything kind to say about them. I'm not here in support of Trump or any of the Trump supporters. I'm the Lord's servant. I ain't on nobody's side. I'm on the Lord's side. Let's be clear. All right, they'll be calling me a Biden supporter and I done flipped the wig and this, that, and the other. I did endorse Trump. I'll admit that I did, but not now.